Okay, so this is basically our main gateway to the class. You will have pretty much everything there. Announcements. I will be posting out. This one is extensive. I know. I'm sorry, but we had. Well, that's the first one. Usually, I'm trying to keep it relatively short. The links to the Zoom. One thing to the Zoom meeting. There is a button right here, which should take you to the same room as we are right now. However, if you click on it, let's say around 8:30, 8:35, and you're getting into empty room, shoot me a quick email, but most likely you're in the wrong room. Sometimes Zoom / Blackboard, I don't know which one of them, might redirect you into a different room where you're not, well, which is nobody there. So links usually works better, but typically, once again, if you click on the Zoom, it will take you to the appropriate class. If you ended up somewhere without anybody, again, we have quite a few students. I'm usually not late to the class, never know, but typically I'm on time. But in this particular case, if you ended up in a room somewhere where you don't know if there is any people there, it means that you're in the wrong room. All right, so let's kind of take a look right here. Syllabus calendar. Let me go really quickly over that. And the disclaimer right away, calendar will change. Yay! Why it will change? If you look right here, we have, you see those particular blue, that's known as the virtual labs. And we have a really nice virtual labs for the first unit. If you'll take a look, there is no virtual labs for the second unit. There is no virtual lab for the third unit. There is no virtual lab for the fourth unit. Why not? Publisher, we just switched to that particular new book, and I'll talk about the book momentarily. But we switched to the new book, Ravens, and one of the main reasons why we switched, the publisher, McGraw-Hill, great company, but they promised us that you will have all of the labs for Bio 1 and Bio 2. For Bio 1, they did a great job. They have pretty much everything covered. For Bio 2, that's the extent they have right now. The lady, I contacted the representative. She said that the new labs are coming out literally at the end of the August or beginning of the September. So I can guarantee you, as soon as they will come up with new labs, I will add them up. It will be in addition to a regular Blackboard lab. So here we have a lab number 1, which is a population genetics, which we'll start doing today. But in this particular case, that's the Blackboard lab. Then we'll have you will have to do on your own, at your own time, at your own leisure, those particular 2 small labs. They short, they are interactive. It's almost like playing a game. You're putting the gloves on, and then you're tidying out the hair for the lab safety. So it gives you a little bit more interactions. Plus, it's a grade. Besides the grade, the labs as well as the assignments will count toward your overall attendance. So be careful that you will be submitting the labs on time, and the time is Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So at the end of each week, those particular assignments are due. With the virtual labs, this is for the labs. Virtual labs as well as those particular homework assignments, I'm giving you a little bit flexibility. They will be due by the end of the unit. The unit, of course, ends with the exam. So Sunday, so 9/13. So right here, the homework assignments 1 through 5, which is chapter 21, 22, and so on, will be due. All right. So seems like a straightforward, simple policy. If you have any issues, any questions, please let me know. Okay. Now, letting know we are on a distance. If you are happy with your grade, I'm happy for you. If you're not happy and you are quiet about that, I'm not a mind reader. I will tell you right away, not a mind reader, so I don't know if you're not happy. If you have some sort of question, communication is the key. Send me the email. We can set it up a quick Zoom meeting. Even though I'm teaching all of the online classes, it seems like I will be showing up periodically at the in my office at the South Campus. I'm on the South Campus, so if you have some sort of issues, don't contact department head for biology from North. They're like, we don't have that particular professor. Oh, he's teaching biology and so on. That happened over the summer. So anyway, so in this particular case, make sure that if you have some sort of issues, you communicate that issue to me. Again, not a mind read. All right. So calendar will change, but we'll try to keep on most of those particular things. It will things will be added up, hopefully. If it's not, then it's not. But this is our outline for the labs as well as the lecture as we have. Any questions about that? No questions, hopefully. All right, now let's kind of go back and go really quickly over syllabus. There is a few things which you should be, should know. Here we have, let's say, it's official syllabus, my name, Igor Yakushkin. I have a doctorate in fine arts, by the way, not science. I have 2 masters in science, biology and geology, but my highest degree is in the fine arts from England, well, Great Britain, technically speaking. So anyway, I'm photographer in my other life, and that's basically what I did. That I made that particular degree for myself. Yeah, there is several books which I published somewhere. I'll show it to you, but actually all of the pictures which you will be using for the lab, for the Blackboard lab, I took them for you guys. You're welcome. So anyway, let's kind of take a look. This is the book you need to use. You don't have to buy it. Whenever you are registering for the class and paying for the class, you already got something which is known as an e-version, e-book for that of that particular book. If you want to have, where is it? I have it somewhere. No, that's not it. Anyway, if you want the hard copy book, you can request it from the McGraw-Hill for some sort of fee. I don't really know what the fee is, but you should be able to access the McGraw-Hill Connect already. You need to create the account, and then just that particular tab right here will take you to the section, and then you're clicking it, and it should be there. So anyway, lab manual. Lab manual will be available on the Blackboard, like for example, and I'll show it to you momentarily. You will need to download that particular file. It's a Word file, so it's editable. It's a really good idea to do the pre-lab questions before actual lab. I'll go over them, but it would be a really good idea, so you will have a little bit of knowledge what we will be doing in the lab. All right, and then of course you will need to submit the lab. Make sure you are saving it as the PDF. Yes, I'm not advertising Adobe or anything like that. PDF is really easy to read by the Blackboard. Word files, sometimes Blackboard can have a problem with that. Mac users, you guys, if you have a Mac, you are notoriously bad in saving it as dot pages, and Blackboard cannot read dot pages. And I understand that you can say, well, it's only one paper. Well, I have 4 sections over pretty much over 100 students. If I'm waiting for a minute for Blackboard trying to open a huge Word file or a Pages file or anything like that. It creates a tons of, it creates a tons of waiting time for me for 1.5 hours just waiting to open. So PDF is the key. And yes, on the first or second lab, I will be more or less lenient. If you'll say in the Word, I'll probably will type something along the line 0, wrong format, please resubmit it, and then you will need to email it to me in the correct, in the proper format, which is a PDF, and we have that later on in the syllabus as well. Learning outcomes, modern evolutionary synthesis. We'll start talking about evolution literally today. And I would like, later on, I would like to talk to you about what do you think evolution is, because some people have the issues and they specifically very interested in the, in your opinion, in your educated opinion, why it's still a theory. It's been around for quite a few years. Then Darwin put the fairly solid scientific foundation behind it, but it's still a theory, right? Everybody knows that evolution is still a theory. Some of the people who don't really like the evolution, they don't believe in evolution, and I'll address that a little bit later. They say, well, it's still a theory. So why it's still a theory? What does it mean it is still a theory? And then, of course, we'll talk about the phylogeny. Phylogeny is who related to whom and how. How close we're related to, let's say, a dog. I have a dog somewhere running around, actually laying down. Or cat. Are we related to a bacteria or anything like that? Yes, we are. But how fast or how far our ancestors splits apart? And then we'll discuss major phylum within the animals, within the protists, within the bacteria. We'll talk about that really, really fast. And then, of course, plants. And then we'll do a little bit of anatomy. So this particular class is kind of introductory class to pretty much, well, not everything, but lots of things in biology. We'll start with evolutionary biology. We'll move on into a microbiology, one lecture on the bacteria. Then we go into a protistology, protists. Then we'll go, well, including algaeology. Then we'll go into a mycology, fungi. And then we'll move on into a botany. From botany, we'll move into a zoology. From zoology, we'll move into anatomy and physiology. So that's the very large scope. Some students like, it's so much material. Yes, it is a lot of material. I had this particular summer, I had a mistake to teach bio 2 5 weeks. Like, it's impossible to do. We had tests every week. We had lab practical every week. There was 4 or 5 labs a week. It was brutal. And I told them that. I'm like, guys, we have, but summer class supposed to be easy. I'm like, we are condensing 16 weeks of material into 5 weeks, and you think it will be easy. So be prepared. There is a lot of things to do. All right. And then, of course, we'll talk about how biology is shaped, or by life, I should say, not biology. Biology is a science. How biological creatures are shaped by the geological events. Remember, I have double masters, one in biology, one in geology, and the bachelor in chemistry. So I'm fairly versed in that particular field. My background in zoology. Later on today or next time on Thursday, I'll show you my favorite species of animals out of them all. And no, it's not humans. So that's basically, then we have a general outcomes. That's a typical stuff. You've probably already seen it. Grade range, again, typical 90 to 100. Not exactly right though. It's like 89.45. 89.45, I'm being nice. I will round it up. You're welcome. Blackboard is actually rounding down. I will round it up, and if you'll end it up with 89.55, you have an A. If you have 69.74, you have a C. All right. And remember, 60 and above, or technically 59.45, is considered to be a passing range according to the college. Yes, if you have a D, that particular class most likely will not be transferred. But generally, in the bio 2, I don't see too many Ds. You are coming in here with, most of you had a bio 1. By the way, how many of you had bio 1? It's not a prerequisite. I'm just curious. How many? Okay. Skylar, you had bio 1. Anybody else had a bio 1 before? Yeah, just kind of type it in. Yep. Okay. Wonderful. 2 students had bio 1. 3 students, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, pretty much majority of you. What's really important about bio 1 and bio 2, they are kind of separate classes. Whatever, yes, we'll talk about photosynthesis. Yes, we'll talk about cellular respiration, but I will not go into a nitty-gritty details as you did it in bio 1 and already forget about it. But you will need to know the reactions. Why? Because those 2 reactions, they are pretty much shaping most 99.9% of life on this particular planet. So it's not only you need to know those particular reactions, and later on I will write them down for you. I will ask them on every single test. All right? Fair deal. I'm not lying. There will be several short answer questions which I will be asking over and over and over again. If you learn it from the beginning, 3 points essentially. But they are important because this is what we will be talking about throughout the semester. We'll talk about evolution, we'll talk about cellular respiration, we'll talk about the photosynthesis. As a matter of fact, if you'll think about it, if you'll take biology, specifically bio 2, we will be focusing on several main, 3 or 4 main topics. The topics: what kind of organism it is, how does it get its energy, how it's feeding, and how it's reproducing. That's pretty much will go like bacteria, do that. This is the types of the reproduction: sexual, asexual, and done. Plants, this is what kind of plants we have. This is how they get the energy, photosynthesis, by the way, right? And this is how they reproduce. Here we have asexual reproduction, here we have sexual reproduction. Animals, same thing. Type of digestion, intracellular, extracellular, and then how they reproduce. So this is 3 or 4 main topics we will go over again. That's why I will be asking you those questions pretty much on every single test. 3 points. Now, lecture exam, 35%. We will have 4 lecture exams and 1 of them will be dropped at the end of the semester, meaning that you will see all 4 of them, but only 3 will count over your average. Okay, you will see all 4 of them on the blackboard. Don't write me an angry email saying you said that you will drop the lowest one, but I still can see it on the blackboard. I'm like, yes, but there is an option on the blackboard where I can say just use the 3 out of 4, drop the lowest one. Okay, makes sense? Then we have lab practicals, labs essentially. That would be a 30% of your grade. Majority of it will be coming from the lab practicals. It's basically a lab exams, online lab exams. Yay! And you will have the labs. You will have a Blackboard labs and those particular virtual labs, which will help you to build it up that particular score, and it's 30%. Final exam, 15%. Lots. It's a lot. However, I'm being kind of, you can say nice, lazy, whichever you prefer. I designed the system to exempt the final. If the student working during the semester have a good, nice average grade, I'll show you the criteria. You can literally exempt, do not take the final. If you want to, you can take the final. Yes. The question is, do the chapters that we have goes along the lectures? Yes, they do. As a matter of fact, whenever I start teaching Bio 2, I align not only the lectures, but also the labs. For example, we'll start talking about today about evolution, specifically population evolution, genetics, population genetics. We'll do the lab on population genetics, and hopefully I'll show you or demonstrate the process of evolution, how how it happens, so to speak. All right. Then we have a homework grade. Homework grade is something which known as a McGraw-Hill, and there is a lot of assignments. I'll show it to you. You can like, oh my God. There is several options. Well, there is several types of the assignments. Some of them known as the quizzes. This is what counts as your homework. And then there is a SB. SB is known as a smart book. If you look at those, they are on a grade book because the McGraw-Hill put them there, but they are 0 points. It's up to you if you're doing them or not. Up to you. It's a great resource when you're studying for the exam, a specific lecture exam. I looked over them. I could have assigned 10, 20, 100 points for those, but I'm like, okay, well, they already have the quizzes. And if I'll add smart book, one per chapter, if you have time and you want to play a little bit, if you are really interested in biology, I would highly recommend you to do those. In addition to that, there will be a multiple guesses reviews for the for each of the tests. I'm working on them right now since we switched the books. But those particular assignments will be available to you. So next time when you will say, well, how do we have a test review? Yes, you have a test review. Smart book, each chapter has that particular part. It's a 0. I already seen some of the students did that, which is terrific. And if you are running short on time, well, you don't really have to do it. But again, highly recommend that there is a direct correlation between the grade or average grade on the test and the students doing the reviews. I'm telling you there is. I can show you the data. I had students who were doing no 0 point assignments for the test review, and then their tests were 100 plus points. Can you get more than 100 points on my test? Yes, I'm throwing bonus questions on every single test, and that would be the questions. Short answers are my lecture tests will be about 60–70% multiple guesses, and about 30 to 40% would be the short answers. Essays, but it's a short. I mean, what is evolution? And give, well, what is biological evolution, and what's the examples of biological evolution? You will see that question pretty much paraphrasing, but that particular question on every single exam. And then we'll have a group project. Yay, group project. It's something which has been put down. Panther project will do it. We'll start together and then you'll break up. I'll break you up, or you can break it up in groups and work it over. You will have plenty of time to do that. So lecture exams, already kind of talk about that. For comprehensive final, you will have to use Respondus monitoring software. Once again, the very first review for the test number 1, it will be a short quiz of 25 points. It will not 25 questions, will not count against your grade. You can take as many times as you want to, but it also will require Respondus monitoring software. It's kind of dry run if you run into any kind of problem with the Respondus or anything like that. Most of you are already familiar with that. Some of you might not, but that's basically a department wishes to run through the Respondus monitoring software, because again, in online classes, cheating is one of the main issues nowadays. Please, I'm begging you, please don't cheat. It's much easier to take a 0 or make a guess rather than try to cheat your way out. Essentially or eventually you will get caught, and then we'll end up in the rabbit hole neither of us want to go. I don't want to write you up. You don't want it to be written up. So yeah, let's not do that just for the rest of the semester, please. So labs, assignments, and quizzes. Quizzes will count as the homeworks, but I might add something else. And again, please submit everything you're submitting to me, emailing to me, whatever, any kind of assignment, PDF format. Plagiarism, here we go. As soon as if I'll catch you first time, I'll give an F. I'll explain to you why I think it is, and you're feel free to contact my department head and so on and so forth, saying I'm being not fair or anything like that. But I mean, whenever the student copying and pasting the short answer straight from the Google, that's kind of obvious, right? Yeah, and I can look it up in the Google. I have that particular access to Google as well, or Yahoo, or whatever your Bing, whatever your search engine is, DuckDuckGo. So, and then if it's the second time, it's basically F for the course. And then I'll have to write you up and it will stay on your student record. And yeah, I'm not enjoying it. Despite that some of the students might think, yeah, I don't enjoy doing that. So final exemption policy, haha. So you have 80 plus and you're happy with the grade. Let's say you have 87 and you're like, well, I'm only 3 points or 3% away from 90. Can I do something about that? Yes, you can take the final. Even though you're exempt, you can still take final. What I will do, I will choose whichever the highest is. Let's say final helped you and bump you over to that particular A. Then final it is. And you completely freaked out on the final and it's bringing your grade down. I will not count the final. I will keep that particular exemption. Make sense? Then we have the homework assignments, and you have as the average, not on every single one, but as the average, 70. You have less than 5 unexcused absences. You completed the common assignment and you completed the team evaluation. I will talk about that later on. You already have the Becoming Human assignment homework. It's a video about an hour long. It's a really good video to watch it. I will not ask you to watch very extensive videos later on in zoology. You will have to watch 10-15 minutes videos on every single group of organisms we'll cover, but they are educational. And Becoming Human, talking about the human possible human evolution, and we'll talk about possible human evolution on Thursday. So if you'll have time to watch it before, that would be terrific. It will start making sense when I'll start talking about saving of energy and so on and so forth. Why exactly we are bipedal? That's one of the very first steps in human evolution. Oh, well, our ancestors, it wasn't humans yet, but bipedalism, walking on tubes. We are essentially the only animal who walks on tubes, if you'll think about it. Well, kangaroos. So anyway, and then there will be a cladogram assignment. I'll give it to you a little bit later. So all of those particular 6 criteria, I will post the grade, well, the exemption later on, closer to the end of the semester. And if you'll have any questions, shoot me an email. Extra credit, all of the extra credit will be in form of bonus questions on the lab practicals as well as the tests. That's it. The department has policy no more than 5%, and I specifically designed our tests as well as the lab practicals to have those bonus questions, which will constitute about 5%, a little bit, probably a little bit over. Don't tell that to my department. About over the 5% of the overall grade. So yeah. Presentation, we'll talk about the project a little bit later at some point of time when the first week kind of settles down. Homework test makeup policy, technically none. I mean, you missed it, you missed it. However, late work without an excused absence. So let's say you've been late for whatever reason, talk to me. If it's a good reason, and in those unprecedented times, it might be God knows what, right? So again, if you just missed it and you didn't submit it, well, I don't know what exactly was going on. If you have some sort of problems, talk to me, and most likely, I definitely will respond. Speaking of the responding, I usually respond within 24 hours. So if you wrote me an email at 1 o'clock in the morning, don't expect me to answer it at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm still sleeping. My usual waking time about 5:30-ish. So kind of a little bit of patience, because some of the students like, and I'm not sitting in the front of the computer all the time. So some students like, well, I wrote you an email like 30 minutes ago, you didn't respond. 30 minutes, really? Yeah, I'm not attached to the computer, sorry, I'm not sitting 24/7 in front of the computer. So again, talk to me. Tell me what your reason. Say if the reason is like, well, I just forgot. Not a really good reason. Be more creative, right? All right, to privacy, you cannot, well, if you can, if you'll send the email like, what's my grade in your class? I'm like, well, please check the Blackboard. It's not because I'm being mean. It's because I don't want to violate the federal Privacy Act, which is a FERPA. So same thing, if you get on hold of my phone, and some students are quite phone number, quite resourceful, and call me and like, hey, Dr. Y, what's my grade? Check your Blackboard, that's your latest grade. Speaking of the grades, it usually takes me about a week to grade the assignment. Let's say today we'll have a lab number 1, right? But it's due by Sunday. So many of you will submit it somewhere over the weekend. So it will take me a week from there to grade the labs. Make sense? Because some of the students, I think it's reflected on the what's the website? Rate My Professor. Here we go. That one. Saying, well, it takes him forever to grade the assignments. Yeah, if you're not submitting them, I cannot grade them. So yeah, it takes usually a week unless there is some sort of circumstances. And I had the problem with one of my summer classes when the student, I could not grade because student didn't take the class. All right. Attendance policy, mandatory. You will have a quickly attendance right there. Today, I think for the lab, for the lecture, everybody's present, but being present, I like just being right there on the in the lab, well, in the Zoom does not really mean being present. Occasionally, I can create a poll and say, hey guys, are you here? Or anything like that, and that poll comes up, I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes to answer, and then if you didn't answer, I'll count you absent. And then we are running into the situation saying, I was there. I'm like, no, you didn't answer the very simple question. Well, I went to get my coffee. Oh, well, try not to get the coffee, or at least notify me about that. You can, there is the privacy tab, right? Like, hey, I will be out for 5 minutes or so. Yeah, that's, again, communication is the key. Anyway, moving on, participation policy. Here we go. Participation policy. I need your feedback. That's important for me to see if you are understanding what I'm talking about or don't understand. You can be completely overwhelmed or anything like that. Classroom etiquette. Well, generally, well, you're respecting me, I'm respecting you. If you'll say I'm periodically receiving the email saying, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up, Yakushkin? I have a question. I'm like, well, let's start from the beginning. My name is, well, whenever you're emailing to your professor, it's a really good idea to start with the capital letter Y, right? And then since I have a doctorate degree and I'm your instructor, you can refer to me as the Dr. Yakushkin. Dr. Y will do just fine, as long as it's capitalized. Or you can call me Professor Yakushkin. So basic, yeah. And I could see the students' eye roll. Like, yeah. Yeah. So no, I'm not that bad on the etiquette, but in this particular case, yeah, whenever everything is not capitalized and it's just my last name or just, hey, what's up? Yeah, let's kind of not go there. Offensive language don't really need that. I do understand that there is different speeds on your computer, so the recordings will be available. to you. Like, let's say today we'll finish the class, somewhere afternoon I will post both of the recording for the lecture and the lab. Student support and encouragement, diversity, equity and inclusion. That's the typical one. Greatest strengths resides in the community. We are all multicultural. We're coming from very different backgrounds. I'm from Russia, well, Kazakhstan technically, but I'm Russian. So yes, all that particular thing intertwined, and I think we can play our strengths on that. Counseling services, if there is any issues, counselors are really good at the class, well, at the San Jacinto College. So if you're like, I'm not really sure if I need it for my degree, well, talk to the counselor. I don't really know. Honesty statement, basically telling that you, well, saying that you are not, you will not be cheating. If you are cheating and get caught, then it's on you. Computer security, emergency responses, use of student email, very important. San Jacinto email is highly preferable whenever you're sending the email to me. If you are sending it from Yahoo, Google, whatever else, Apple mail services, there is a possibility that the SendJack mail server will just send it to the spam right away. And then I will not answer, and then you will get upset that I didn't answer your email. My typical time answering email is 24 hours. I typically answer within 24 hours. If I didn't answer, send the email again or talk to me. You have that particular part, send me the question, private question, or just on a regular chat saying, hey, did you receive my email? I'm like, no, can you resend it to me? Class recording, all of our classes will be recorded, so be aware of that. Withdrawal policy, you can withdraw before the census, well, before the specific date, and I think I'll send it to you later on. The repeat rule, graduation information, campus carry, we're not on campus, but generally it breaks down. You don't see any of my piece, I don't want to see yours, essentially. And then the COVID reporting, if you are exposed or you know that you have COVID, you have to report it. Since we're in an online environment, well, hopefully you will go through that particular stuff easy. But if you ended up in the hospital or anything like that, that would be your excused absences. So yeah, kind of keep that in mind. All right, and that's pretty much it on the syllabus. It's posted right here under syllabus calendar part. So, and again, calendar will change. Any questions, any problems so far? No questions, no problems. All right. Well, my profile right here, my picture, like I told you, I'm a photographer in my other life. I will be updating Flickr account, and this is my email if you want to get to me. Now, course content. This is the main part for our class. You will have 3 tabs, and you will see several assignments right here. The first assignment already here, and I think it's due. Let me see when it's due. I think it's due on at the end of this unit. Let me double check. Due date is 9/12, so September 12th. You have plenty of time to do it, and it's easy 35 questions. Each one of those particular questions comes from the video. If you're watching the video, you should be able to answer those particular questions. Lecture. In the lecture, you will have content folder and the lecture 1, lecture 2. Well, that's a PowerPoint, and in the content folder, this is all of the assignments on the Connect. And you can say, man, this is a lot of assignments for the first unit. But remember, I told you that SB do not count against your grade. That's for you to practice for the test, check, and whenever you are going with the SB, let me really quickly go over that. See, some of the students started, some of the students didn't. Let me see, preview. Whenever you're going right there, what I really like about SmartBook, it kind of, you can continue reading, or you can just go and continue with the questions. It's basically checking, according to the theory of blending inheritance, offspring expected to be phenotypical similar relative to their parents. So in this particular case, if you answer that correct, then you can continue. If it's not, then you can kind of read about this particular concept. So it gives you the time to kind of go ahead, those particular concepts which are important. And you can say 31 concepts, man, that's so many concepts for that particular chapter. Technically, in the McGraw-Hill, I can go up to around 70 or 80 of those particular concepts, meaning increase the number of questions. I didn't do, I tried to keep it on a lower part of the spectrum, so to speak. However, that one, data and graph of Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, that's for the grade as well as the chapter assessment. So we have 2 assignments right here for the grade. Here's another 2 assignments for the grade, and here we have 2 more. But now, starting with 23, just the quiz. Going with 27, just the quiz. Going with 28, just the quiz. 31, just the quiz. So most of the time per chapter, you will have 1 or 2 assignments, no more than that. I will not try to kill you with the homework or anything like that. And again, those particular assessments, they are relatively short. Now, on the lecture part, here you will have PowerPoints. Later on, I will upload the, you will see this special folder which will say test review, and this is where you will have the test review, the conceptual, as well as the kind of quiz option for that. Test review is not for the grade. And then at the end of the unit, you will have the exam popping up for you right there as well. Multiple choice / short answers. And then we'll continue to the second unit, and then it will be different color. The next unit will be botany, so it's probably will be green PowerPoints and so on. So I can show to you one of my previous classes. Let's say that was the summer class. So you can kind of see what exactly the whole thing will look like later on. So here we have, see, test review, the first 5 lectures, the test number 1, then the color-coded test 2 review, test, well, unit 2, PowerPoints, and so on and so forth. Kind of makes sense? So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now on the lab part. On the lab part, you will have lab guides. Lab guides is basically, I went in the lab and I took the picture of everything what you will see if you're in actual lab. Like for example, for the 3, you're going in and you will see the table 1, which is stromatolites, and we'll talk about the stromatolites. I'll give you the options of different stromatolites or different views of the stromatolite, and we'll talk about what stromatolite is. So whenever we'll be doing lab today, I will pull out the guide and the lab, and we'll go over. I'll show you every pictures, etc. In some of the labs, it will say sketch or draw, like sketch or draw stromatolite. Some of you good in the artistic front, some of you not. I have a PhD in fine arts. My drawing is a stick man, the best I can do. Again, I was specializing in photography. So you don't have to draw. You can take my picture, snip it or print screen it, whatever it is. Just take it and post it. And if needed labeling, feel free to use my own pictures without any giving me the credit, copyrights, or anything like that. I'm giving you the permission right now, right here, and it's recorded. So far, so good. If you decide to go into a Google or whatever other web searches you have and download the pictures, here you're running into a very important thing known as a copyright protection. If you just got the first picture out of that particular Google, you don't know if it's copyrighted or not. If it's copyrighted and you're using it, then you're violating the copyright. But no, so you have to look for something which known as a common license or Creative Commons license. Basically, the person gives the permission for you to use in non-commercial in non-commercial purposes, which is the education. However, if you're using somebody else's pictures, that's fine with me. You will not hurt me personally as a photographer. However, you will have to give the link. You'll have to give the credit. You can say, this picture, I didn't like that stromatolite, but I found a great picture of the stromatolite, and this is the picture, and this is who took it. Somebody did it, give them the credit. Once again, you don't have to give me the credit. That's wonderful, because I already give you the permission to use that. But if you're using somebody else's work, if you're using your own work, that's wonderful. If you have a set of stromatolites somewhere, I envy you. I have those particular ones somewhere. Yeah, see, right there, this guy, right here. Oh, right there. That's the same sample that you see right here. But if you have and you're using your own pictures, that's great. If not, then give the permission. Well, give the credit to the person who took it. All right. Okay, that's the guide. And for every single lab except the lab number 19, well, maybe I'll create the lab 19 guide, but lab 19 is a peak dissection, and we have a virtual peak dissection already. So you will have a guide. As you can see, for the first 5 labs, we already have the lab guides. And let me go back to the labs itself. And now if you'll go laboratory manual part, that's basically unit 1. You will see several things. Already have a review for the lab practical. Yay, you're welcome. Then you have a virtual lab, lab safety. This is the connect, and it's due on the September 19th. And there is few others. You can do it right now, but I would like for you to right now hold on those, because this is about the evolution, this one is about bacteria, this is the protist, and this is basically the review for the lab practical. Today we'll be doing the lab number 1, population genetics, and this is the file which you can edit and type it in whatever you need to do, enter any kind of pictures and so on and so forth. So both of those guide as well as the population genetics goes together, and they due this Sunday, all right, at 11:59 p.m. Any questions, any problems? But again, I'll go over with you on that today. Now, course content. Yes.
Sorry.
Sure.
For that part, you just clicked the, what part did you go to see the lab? You just click the lab section?
Lab, and then it goes laboratory manual part 1.
Okay.
And then whenever we'll be done with the unit 1, you go to the part 2. It's not there yet. Well, it's there for me, but you see, it's not, oops, it's not available to the student because we're not there. I don't want to overwhelm students because they start going in the wrong folders, and then they start sending the emails like, I cannot find it or anything like that. So I'm keeping it hidden, but it will unveil itself for you whenever we will get to the unit 2. Make sense? All right, cool. All right, now last, I think, thing in the course content are recordings. Blank. Why? Because we are recording right now. It takes a little bit for Zoom to process the recording. So as soon as we will be done with the class around 11:30-ish, probably by 12, Zoom will send me the email saying, hey, your recording is available. And then I will post it. There is a possibility, and I'm human, I'm making mistakes, and I'm the first one to admit if I made the mistake. I will forget. It will slip out of my mind. So if you don't see the recording by the end of the day, yes, shame on me. Send me the email, say, hey, I don't see the recording. I'm like, oh man, and I will go and will put that particular email, that particular recording right away. I think the recording, most of the students appreciate those particular recordings because once again, whenever I'll go over the lab, I'll go relatively fast, and you might miss some of the details, but then you can go back to the recording, put me on the speed talking about ×4, usually works great, right? And then you just going over whatever I was saying either in the lecture or in the lab. It will be a different 2 recordings. Make sense? So they're not there yet, but again, if you want me to show you the previous classes, takes time. If you'll go into your course content and recordings, you will see that basically intro to the class, population genetics, lecture 1 and 2, and so on. So you will see pretty much everything what we will cover during this particular semester. Lab, lecture, lab, lecture, lab, well, lecture, lab, lecture, lab, lecture, lab. So unless you have something else, if you have some other ideas how I can improve my communication to you, please let me know. I'm all for well, trying it out. And that's pretty much it. The Zoom, the McGraw-Hill. If you'll click on the McGraw-Hill right here, you can say go to my section, and yours will look slightly different. Let me kind of change the view, student view. This is how your McGraw-Hill should look like. Basically talking about the connect orientation videos, they are not for the grade whatsoever. You can kind of look at them if you want to, but unit 1, you're clicking on the unit 1, and here's everything what will be covered during the unit 1. The virtual labs, the smart book, the homework, as well as the quiz. Quiz and the homework are pretty much the same thing, and just internal McGraw-Hill, but they will go in on the Blackboard side, they'll go into the same assignment. Sure, you want my number? Actually, I had students before saying, hey, yes, if we have a question, we can answer you right away. Well, we can ask you right away. So yeah, it's up to you guys. I don't have a problem to share the number. So anyway, unless you decide to cheat there or anything like that. Okay, cool. So yeah, that's a great idea. All right, so this is McGraw-Hill, but again, try not to get freaked out, because again, all of these B's are not counting toward your grade, but very nice reference material when you're studying for the test. All right, and later on we'll have the what's the name of it? I'll create a link to the group project, but I don't want to overload you right now on that. So that's pretty much it. Any questions, any problems on the course settings, so to speak? If not, then we'll move on to our first lecture. We probably will not finish the first lecture. So let me do the opposite. Hold on. All right, so I want you. So no. So we'll start talking about the evolution. Yay! A very important part in biology. It's kind of should give me the opposite. Okay, well, let's try to do this then. No, stop listening. Cool. And anyway, let me do this. Okay. All right. Let's see. Share a different screen. We'll do this way. Screen. Okay. Go with the sharing. All right, can you see the whole thing now? Should be that particular part, right? Laser point. So everybody's good on the PowerPoint. Yeah, all right, cool. All right, well, in this particular case, you see a very nice picture, of course, Darwin with the thinker and that particular picture. This is pretty much the tree of life. And we'll talk a little bit about that and what we will be doing today in the class is something which known as evolution, trying to understand what evolution is, how the new species are formed, what the patterns of that particular process formation of the new species known as the speciation, and we will tie it up with the genetics, because today's lab, hopefully I will be able to finish it within 25 minutes, but today's lab will talk about the population genetics and how that tied it up to the evolution. And then we'll talk about the misconcept. We have class goes till 10 o'clock, so if I will not finish today, I'll continue next time, and that's okay. So here we have a couple of definitions. Those particular definitions you need to know. Specifically species, or more particular biological species. There is over 100 different definitions of the species. I would like for you to memorize that one. Species, a population of organisms. If you'll miss the population, you can say organisms capable of interbreeding. That's important. They're capable of interbreeding under natural conditions. First. Second of all, produce fertile offspring. This is extremely important point right here, producing the fertile offspring. Because if the offspring is infertile, it means that most likely the interbreed happens between two different species. As an example, all of you heard about that, most likely. We have horse and we have a donkey. You most likely seen those particular creatures before. Two different species. Under natural conditions, they can interbreed and create a hybrid known as a mule or hinny, depends which one is a male, which one is a female. But in this particular case, they are capable of interbreeding. However, why they are staying at different species, horses and donkeys? Because the offspring is infertile. Horse has 64 chromosomes, donkey has 62 chromosomes. As a result, the hybrid will have 63 chromosomes. It cannot go through the process of meiosis. It's not happening in there. They are infertile. So please, whenever, and you will have that question on pretty much every single test. Maybe I'll skip one or two, but out of 4 lecture tests, 4 lab practicals, you probably will looking at the 6 or so questions. Give the definition, I'm paraphrasing, but it will be around something like that. Give the definition of biological species and provide the examples. Now, like, I don't know examples. Well, I just give you 2, horse and a donkey. That's we as a humans, right? Homo sapiens. We are an example of species. Don't just give me animal. Animal is the kingdom, it's not a species. I'm not asking you to write down the Latin names. You can say humans, horses. What else? What else might be a species? Dogs. That's a species. It's actually a subspecies of wolves, which is another species. On South Campus, we have the mascot is coyote, right? Here we go, that's a species. Central Campus has the mascot of ravens, species. North Campus has the mascot of alligators, I think, species. I don't know what the generation part has? Anybody knows? By the way, I just don't. I'm learning as well. Now, if you don't like animals, well, there is a possibility. You can say, well, oak tree would be a group, but I'll accept it as a species on that level of biology. Okay, we'll talk about E. coli. You probably heard, oh, whoa, really bad E. coli, a bacteria which is in your intestines. Well, there is some varieties of that which can kill you, but most of you, well, all of us, including me, have the E. coli in Escherichia coli in our intestine right now. Later on, we'll talk about anthrax bacteria. You'll see the pictures of that. That's the species. Gonorrhea species. You'll see syphilis, bacteria which causes syphilis, treponema. That's the species. All right. You don't like the bacteria. Well, you can say dragonflies, beetles. Technically, they're not species specifically. It's more larger groups, but I'll accept it. Like honeybee is a species. Yay. Panda bear. Cute, right? Yeah, species. Opossum, another species. So see how many examples I have for you. So make sure that you know organisms capable of interbreeding, producing fertile offspring. This is what I'm looking for. And the examples, whatever, tigers, lions, if you like those ones, cats, dogs, parrots, pelicans, and so on. Now, what is a population? Think about it. We are essentially a population of bio2 class. We are a group of individual members, right? We are a group of individual members of the same species. Presumably, all of us belong to the same species, Homo sapiens, within a specific geographic area. As a matter of fact, the same word used in everyday life. Population, I live in Friendswood. Population on Friendswood, population of Houston, population of Allen, population of Pearland, Clear Lake, Webster, Lake City, and whatever, right? Group of individual members living in the same geographic area. Currently, we have about 2 or so millions of species identified. We continue to discover new ones. As a matter of fact, we've been in this class for a little bit over an hour now. And about 1 or 2 species has been destroyed by us, by humans, without even discovering those particular species. Yeah, we killed them without knowing they exist. How that happens? A tiny little baby, new form species of some sort of bug on the tropical tree somewhere in the basin of Amazon. The tree getting cut down, chopped down, sent away. The species has been destroyed. We haven't even knew about that, which is a bad thing. Yes, I understand that, but we'll talk later on about mass extinctions and how they bad for the diversity, well, biodiversity. And on another hand, there is always a silver lining. Dinosaurs ceased to exist 65 million of most of the dinosaurs. Some of them are still flying around, known as birds. Yeah. So anyway, we just call them birds. We don't call them dinosaurs. So the question is, what would the T-Rex taste like? Yeah, T-Rex, by the way, it's another species. That's, yeah, see, they are dinosaurs. He is absolutely right. We just call them birds, but technically, we'll talk about that. I'll show you the link of the dinosaurs, specifically something which known as the bird hip dinosaurs from the same group as the T-Rex. I'm not saying that the chickens evolved from the T-Rexes, no, but T-Rex most likely would taste similar to the chicken. Well, pretty much everything tastes like a chicken. Alligator, chicken, frog, chicken. Yeah. Anyway, so yes. That's a, yeah, kudos to your son. Wonderful. So in this particular case, see, I have a proof that birds are dinosaurs. Even the 8-year-old knows that. So anyway, we don't really know how many species there are. because there is difficulties on identifying species, well, what exactly species are for some of the organisms, but it ranges somewhere between 5 to 15 million of species. There is, once again, very difficult, sometimes it's difficult to identify the species because we are applying quite a few concepts. Something which known as a morphological concept was initial concept, how it looks like. Morphology is how it looks like. If it looks like, well, if it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it should be a duck. In most of the cases, it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I'll give you an example very soon. And essentially, my definition of the species, the one which I'm asking you to memorize, again, it will be on the test. I promise you, on the very first test, you will see that question. Define biological, give me the definition of biological species, give me an example. So, group of interbreeding natural population that reproductively isolated from such groups. Very similar. I just went ahead and added creating the fertile offspring. It is important, fertile offspring. And then there is a phylogeny species concept, who is related to whom and how on that particular huge tree of life, if we can tell. For most of the living creatures nowadays, we can, because we have the DNA and we can compare the DNA. But what about the extinct creatures, the dinosaurs? Kind of hard to tell because the DNA is not really, well, it is not well preserved, so to speak. Let's take a look on those particular froggies, right? Morphological concept fails here drastically, or badly, really, really badly, because you're looking at two of those, they look different. You're looking at two of those, they look same. Here, we have two different species of frogs. Here we have two same species of frog. Those guys are capable of interbreed and produce fertile offspring. I don't know what color it will be. Those guys, however, will not be able to interbreed with each other. Different species, same species. So morphology, how it looks like. If it looks like a duck, quack like a duck, not working right here. In many cases it does, in some cases it does not. And another thing for you to remember, biology is science about exceptions. From any kind of rule we have, there will be always exceptions, always. However, on that level of biology, we're not really going too deep into the exceptions. Sometimes I will be talking to you about that, but technically I am trying not to give you the questions when it's talking about a particular exception. All right. I had a geology professor, a brutal geology professor in my graduate school. For the lab practical, he would always pull out some sort of exceptions from the rule, and it would stump you tremendously. So just some of the examples, like for example, a sapphire. Whenever I'm saying sapphire as the gem, what color do you think? Usually a sapphire, blue, right? Or emerald, green. Well, he would put a sapphire on the lab practical, which will be a pink sapphire, or yellow emerald. And then you're like, and he's like, no, don't look at the color. Look at the other traits. That's an exception. So now subspecies. What considered to be a subspecies? If we have a large amount of individuals within a species going over a very large geographic areas, they might get specialized to suit a particular environment. Great example of the subspecies: wolves versus dogs. Wolves and dogs belong to the same species, Canis lupus. Canis means dog, lupus means wild dog. That's the Latin name for the wolf. However, the dog goes into a subspecies Familiaris. Technically speaking, dog can mate with the wolf and produce the fertile offspring. They are same species, but there is a differences. I can pet the dog, no problem, most of them. With the wolf, not so much. They were being bred in a very specific, well, to use a very specific traits, something which is known as artificial selection. And then, of course, we might have, so if the geographical distribution met, they might relatively easily interbreed. Don't, this is a race, it says right here, race, and I had students before saying, so white people, black people, and Asian people are different races. Well, they are different races, but they are not different subspecies. We belong to the same species. It just have slightly different races. In this particular case, it's a local variance of the species, because if you look, Asians, well, mostly you'll find them in Asia. However, technically, I am an Asian. Yeah, I was born in Asia. I came from the Asia. I have ancestors who are Asians. So technically, I'm an Asian. See? The technicality. So we're not going into a social aspect of that particular word. Or actually, in here, when I will be talking about male versus females, I'm not talking about self-identification or anything like that. It's not a sociology, it's biology. It's a science which is more strict. Males have a specific, and we'll talk about what males do in the environment and what females typically do in the environment. We're not talking about self-identification. And guys, please don't take it personally. I'm not against any of self-identification, whatever it might be. I'm not against any races. In this particular case, we're talking about biological race. Biological race could be, for example, same bug, same beetle, at the bottom of the mountain and then way up in the high altitude mountains. They will create a different race. Why? Because there is a different amount of ultraviolet. Higher altitude insects of the same species typically will have a darker varieties, typically. But we'll talk about that darker varieties. That would be one of the examples of the evolution, the industrial melanins. We'll talk about that as well. All right, so be careful with applying same word for the sociology and the biology. Brief history, you probably know this particular guy, the Charles Darwin. You might or might not know about Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, very interesting gentleman. He is one of the first who wrote about the evolution. He provided a very wrong examples or actually the mechanisms of evolution, but he was one of the first scientists who come up with that particular idea. Now, going back to the idea about evolution, whenever I'm saying evolution, what do you think I'm saying? What do you think? Yeah, type it in either chat or in the private to me. What do you think evolution is? Just you heard that word. Just think about me as a Russian professor who don't know about the evolution. Evolution is change. That's a good one right there. Anything else? Can you? That's a good one. Change is a really good beginning. It's a change of something with the very specific forces behind it, but process of adaptability through changes of ecosystems. Okay, all right, well, it's a little bit more out there. Changing, I don't think the ecosystem changed because of the evolution. I think the organism changing because of the change of ecosystem, but that's a good example as well. Yeah, don't be shy right there. Changing characteristics. Okay, well, think about it. That's an interesting one as well, changing characteristics. Question is, what kind of characteristics are we talking about? Because think about it. Me, when I'm growing up, when I was born, I had my set of characteristics, right? Bald, probably no teeth. I don't remember, but most likely. And then I grew up. Now I have some hair, and then I have teeth, and then I don't know, 20 or 30 years later, my teeth will start falling out. That's change of characteristics. Am I evolving though? So keep that in mind. Same thing with the trees. Some of the trees in our particular well, in backyard, later on they will change the color of the leaves and they'll drop the leaves. That's the change. They will be ready for the winter. We don't have winter here, but still, it's a change. Is it evolution though? Adaptivity of the organism in order to survive. That's a really interesting one. Adaptivity in order to survive. All of you going in the right direction, by the way. Something to do with the change. In private, if you can, if you don't believe in evolution, would you mind to tell me, like, I don't believe in evolution? You can do it on a general chat, but if you can do it on the private, that would be even better. So, like, don't believe in evolution. It's still a theory. You are in between. That's a good answer. So sometimes happening, sometimes not happening, right? And guys, I'm not trying to indoctrinate you into the theory of evolution. You have to believe in order to pass that particular class. My idea, or my main goal, to explain it to you, and then you can say, I'm still in between, not convincing enough, or you can say, hey, well, in some actually things it might happening. In some cases, I'm still not happy with that. Let's put it this way. All right, well, let's go with beginning. Okay, all right, cool. Do I believe in evolution? That's a great, thank you, Jessica. I was waiting for it. You got it right there. You got me right there. That's wonderful. That's a great question. Thank you. Do I believe in evolution? Here's the problem in the question. Belief or sets of belief is essentially a religion. All right? Evolution as a theory can be accepted or rejected from the scientific point of view. Am I a believer in evolution? Well, I'm not sure if there is such a religion. Maybe there is, but it's not. I do accept the theory of evolution. There is quite a few problems in it. I'm not saying, but in general, I do accept personally. And now, once again, I'm not trying to convince you otherwise, or I am not convince you you have to believe in evolution. No. In this particular case, you can either accept or reject the scientific, we in a science class, scientific hypothesis, or scientific, in this particular case, scientific theory. So anyway, let's kind of go back to that's a wonderful conversation. Thank you, guys. No, hypothesis is just kind of educational guess. Then, if you run several experiments and you ended up proving your hypothesis turns into a theory. If your theory is strong enough and can answer all of the questions and becoming a law. So let's say Newton's law, right? The apple will hit you on the head. Gravity. Newton's come up with that. There is laws or thermochemistry, thermodynamics. That's the laws. No matter what, we know the outcome. That's the law. If I'll throw a rock at you, it will hit you from the top. It will hit you on the head. If I'll throw an apple, it will hit you on the head. If I'll throw a lens, it will still hit on the head. No matter what I'm changing, the outcome is pretty much predictable. That's the law. Now, with the evolution, well, it's not a law. It's not a hypothesis no more. It's a theory. It's much more advanced, but it's not a law yet. So evolution has been proven many times as the process, but it's still a theory. Why? That's the great question. So anyway, let's go back to the history because I'm kind of running out of time. maybe we'll take another 5 minutes. I'm getting all excited about the evolution, of course. It's a really interesting topic. I know it was quite controversial. So Jean-Baptiste Lamarck come up with the idea of change, that creatures are changing, and he proposed the driving force, the need. Every single creature wants to become a human. He says that amoeba on its way, a very simple creature, of course, on the way to the man. As a matter of fact, he theorized that there is giraffes, right? The creatures with a long neck. And then there is their relatives known as the okapi. It looks like a giraffe with a short neck. So Lamarck was saying, hey guys, this is probably what happened. There was a need to reach to the higher leaves. As a result, they extend their necks, and we ended up with the giraffes, which was not proven correctly. So yeah, that was rejected. But then Darwin came in, and he wrote his Origin of the Species in 1835, 36. And then for almost 25 years, he was literally sitting on it. He didn't publish it. Why not? He knew it will create a problem, the problem of the human evolution. And yeah, whenever he published it, he became like a public enemy #1 for many of the people. But he amassed a huge amount of data, and he came up with a fairly interesting idea of driving force behind the evolution, survival of the fittest. If you fit it to the environment, you will survive. And this is the driving force behind the evolution. He was not entirely correct on that. Why not? Because remember, surviving is great, but if you didn't reproduce, everything, all your fitness will die with you. So it's not only survival, but also a reproduction. Now we have something which is known as a modern theory of evolution, which saying it's not only survival, but giving that particular fitness will give you a better chance of reproducing. Reproducing is the key point for that. So anyway, moving on. Evolution, from the Latin word, means unfold. So change over time. As a matter of fact, any kind of change over time is considered to be an evolution. So for the people who not really, and I'm not talking about biological evolution yet, I'm talking about just the evolution. Cell phone right here, right? 20 years ago was slightly different. 30 years ago was a brick. You hit the person with that, you can kill them. You will see the change over time for the cell phones. Yes, we do. Meaning cell phones evolving. The process is happening. You can say, well, it's a man-made. Yes, you are just says that it's a driving force, but they do change. Cars, 20 years now, 30, 50, 100 years from back, and now cars, nowadays cars, change over time. Is it happening? Yes. What is the driving force behind that process is extremely important. So the whole idea of change over time for any kind of things, clothes, 500 years ago, we're taking the trip on the time machine, going back to, I don't know, old England, France, or anything like that. The first thing which they will do is capture us and burn us at the stake as the warlocks and witches, because we look different. Our clothes is weird. We speak weirdly, right? Yeah. Here we go. Evolution, just clothes. Language evolving, and so on and so forth. Evolution as the process happening not only in biological world, everywhere where you look. So hopefully I'm kind of convincing you that some sort of evolution somewhere happened. Now, let's go to the biological evolution. This question you need to know. the definition. Biological evolution is the process. It's a process of changing of genetic frequencies in the population from one generation to another. In another word, change of genetic frequencies over time. What does it mean? Well, any kind of people, well, any kind of species will have some sort of genes. Yes, the designer genes, right? Yeah, no, the genes in the DNA. And we have something which known as the dominant, we have recessive genes, and there is always some sort of ratio between those genes, the dominant versus recessive. And if that particular ratio start changing from this generation to the next generation, we start talking about a process of biological evolution. That's all. Microevolution versus macroevolution. There is two types of the evolution. Micro is the accumulation of tiny little bitty frequencies on the populations, and this is what the lab will be about. And then which leads to a macroevolution, whenever those changes are big enough that that population is very different from the other population, and they start considered to be a new species. But we'll discuss that next time. We'll stop right here, as long as you remember, and that's crucial point for today's lab, that biological evolution is change, a process of changes of genetic frequencies from one generation to the next. Make sense? All right. And once again, that definition will be on every single test, or almost every single test. My promise to you. All right, let's take a 5-minute break. Let's do a 2-minute break, a 3-minute break, and come back around 10:10. So we'll go into the lab. All right. I'll stop sharing. I'll stop recording right now. And